All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Bryan Hayes, and there he is, Frankie Corrado. Looking good, feeling good. A beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in Toronto.
Yeah, buddy.
How we feeling, Frankie?
Good. I got a big night coming up. I actually need your advice on something.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I am
Okay.
making my post-retirement beer league debut tonight.
Wow. Is this
Yeah.
the beginning of the season? Is it a mid-August thing, or is it just a random summer league type thing that you're jumping on board for?
So it's not a league, it's pickup. So there's no refs, there's no like score sheet, all that kind of stuff. It's my dad and his buddies and all these guys, they play together. They've been playing together a long time, and I've been hearing it. Why don't you come out? Now there's no excuses. You're retired. You should come out. So I haven't skated in a while, but I figured, all right, I spent my whole life on skates, and it feels so weird now that I don't skate at all. Like I should be on skates once a week. I don't know, 4 times a month at least. So I'm going out there, man. I'm going out there, and I was getting my hockey bag ready today, and I have like a red Belleville Senators jersey in there. And then I texted my dad. I'm like, you must have a white jersey for me somewhere at the house because I got to bring a dark color and a white color. I got to be prepared for these things now.
Right.
Like, there's a lot that goes into this.
Yeah, that kind of detail doesn't come up enough. Like, people are not aware of that if you're showing up at basically a shinny night, like effectively that's what it is, you got to be representing, both color options. You got to have a road white, you got to have a home blue or red or whatever it is. It's got to be something bold so that, you can have some sort of sensible game out there where it's not just chaos and everyone's in, the same looking gear or whatever. Yeah. It is kind of like riding a bike. I think you'll be fine. I'm sure you'll get the wheels on. You'll get out there. You'll start burning. But I'm curious how this goes for you, especially considering who you're going up against here. Because, you're still a young guy. You're still in shape. You played in the NHL. If these are a bunch of the old boys, you got to be careful, because there is a difference between a league and a pickup, where a pickup is more relaxed, less heroic.
Yes.
Usually less heroic. But also I find it's policed by the boys.
Right.
So if you want to be heroic, there will not be a ref that will step in to say, hey, you might want to cool it here. I've seen some stuff take place.
Yeah.
It'll be, John Carlo who decides, I'm going to let you know. Like, if you think you're stepping into my backyard here, I know you play for the Leafs. I know you're an NHLer. I understand who you are, and your dad's right over there, but I didn't like the way you tried to dangle, and I'm going to have to take you out.
Oh, my dad will be the first one to bury me. Like, I've seen his act in this kind of game before, and
Yes.
I know the way that operation goes down. If you're coming down the wing with too much speed, there could be a stick, there could be a collision. Now, my mindset is going to be this. All the stuff that I didn't do when I was a player, right? Like 3-foot-high saucer pass from the goal line to that could be coming out tonight.
Absolutely, it
that
has
could
to
be coming out.
You got to bring something, because the thing is, you're kind of like a show pony here, right? Like, the boys want to see you do something. You can't just be chopping the puck around and high and hard and dump and chase.
No.
You got to have some sort of skill here. But it is strange how. Well, I guess it isn't strange. I actually think it's a great part of the human spirit that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still you will be incredibly competitive, and especially with like a physical sport where the nature of it can still go off the tracks at any point. And to see guys, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s on the verge of coming to blows or coming to blows is a wild experience.
Wild. These guys all got to go to work tomorrow.
It's wild. Like, I remember as a kid going out and skating with my buddy's dad's skate, similar to what you're dealing with now.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I have a recollection of him getting in a tilt. And I remember thinking, what the hell is happening here? It was at Forest Hill Arena. I think it might have been on the small pad of Forest Hill, too. Remember the small
Stuff
pad?
happens quick on that small pad. I have been there many times.
Yes, there's the bigger pad that really, I still don't think is that. I think the bigger pad is not an official-sized rink either.
It's not, you're right.
But the small pad is basically between the blue lines. Like, that's what you're playing. and someone came across the middle. Someone had their head down. Someone should have moved, but they didn't. And I'm pretty sure there was like a scenario where a guy got up and the gloves were off. And it was like they're both in cages.
Yeah.
So they spent the whole time trying to rip each other's cage off, and then nothing happened.
For sure.
Because I think sensibility finally kicked in. They said, what the hell are we doing? There's kids here. We're in our 50s. We got to go to work tomorrow. But I remember skating around thinking, this is insane. Like, this is actually crazy.
Yeah.
There are 50-year-olds who are professionals, who are fathers, who are fighting because some guy came across the middle with his head down and got clipped like Scott Stevens.
There's such a principle behind.
It's amazing.
Like, how dare you go through the middle? What do you expect me to do? You came through the middle of the ice,
and that was it. Smack talk back and forth.
You're also not getting paid to play hockey, my friend. Right?
That's another part of it that you would think would kick in at some point, right? Guys, you're not actually employed, and last time I checked, there are not scouts, right? Like Wes Clark is not here scouting to see if he's going to draft you next year for the Leafs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Wes is not doing that.
So that's my night. I have no idea what kind of condition my skates are in. I'm going in like they could be no edges. We'll figure it out as we go. I don't know if I have clear tape. I don't know if we're going out there, and we're just going to wing it.
It really is the Wild West when you open up the bag for the first time in a long time. Like, I have an old – I don't even know what bag I've been using because I haven't played in so long. Like, basically, since I had kids, I just don't play. And I talked about the Brooklyn kind of hockey league that's somewhat cloak and dagger out by me at an old barn right around the corner, great old barn. And I'm thinking about trying to, wet my beak with that at some point this year. Maybe I try to get back on the ice. And, I got that stick at the Prospects game a year and a half ago. I felt like
launcher.
a new dude. My wrist shot is better today than it was when I was 18. Like, it's not even close. And that's probably a sign of what I was doing when I was 18. But I opened my bag. I'm like, I have one shin pad. There's no chest protector. Like, I have like multiple mouth guards that I'm never going to use again, but they're in there for some reason.
There's 0% chance I put a mouth guard in tonight.
You can't do it.
The only thing I looked for is to make sure, because I have a knee brace on both knees. If I don't have those, there's no chance I can play. So
are you cage guy tonight?
No, I'm visor guy, not a cage. I don't think I'll ever go back to a cage. I think that's part of, like, I played professional hockey. I played in the NHL.
Yep.
I refuse to go back to a cage. But I'm living out something that I first saw probably 15 years ago now at this point. We had a game at the old Lakeshore Lions Arena when I was playing minor midget back in the day for the Vaughan Kings.
Yep.
And we're watching like this, these old timers play hockey before us. It's similar to this. It's a pickup game. And one of the coaches looks over to a few of us that are taping our sticks by the glass and says, boys, all roads eventually lead to here. One way or another, this is where you'll be. And tonight, I will be there.
What kind of commentary is that?
Tonight, that's where I will be.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go.
9 years of professional hockey, 4 years in the OHL, and 15 years later,
you're here.
There we are.
You made it. Yeah. It is quite the experience. And summer hockey is a totally different beast, too. It's T-shirts and shorts and flip-flops, and it's the coolest feeling in the world when you're leaving the rink. I always hated going into the rink in the summer. I loved leaving a rink in the summer.
Yeah, that also depends on the shower, too.
Yes,
like
that's a big part
when
of it.
I was playing, I always felt like I had to shower at the rink because I had other stuff I had to do during the day. Now it's like games at 9:30 at night. I'm just gonna go home shower.
Go home and shower, and it's all good.
Right?
But yeah, getting back in the rinks is really quite the experience. Like, I had it this year. I told you guys, I've been speaking about it publicly. My oldest played hockey for the first time this year, and I had not been in the rinks in forever because I hadn't really played men's like a beer league in probably a decade. And even that is a different vibe because you're going in there late. You're not really committed to it. You're in or you're out. Maybe you miss some games. And again, you're playing at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. You're walking into a rink when it's dark at 6:45 a.m.
Yeah.
And it is actually it was an amazing experience. Like it was like nostalgic. Like I was in the rink watching her practice or whatever. I'm like, this is awesome. Like I'm back in the rink. And you have to hit a certain age, and you have to be, I think, kind of removed from the game long enough to actually be sitting there at 7 in the morning with like an appreciation for being in a rink at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it's not normal. Like, no one should want to be at a rink at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. But it was something I really look forward to, and we're doing it again this year. I think both my kids are going to play. Like, I'm pretty sure I am going to be up at 6 a.m. every Saturday from September through, like, March.
And the routine is probably straight to Tim Hortons, and there's a coffee involved, and
Yep.
you are in the stands. You're kind of like, you got a decent outfit on, you're looking cool, and you got your coffee. And that's your vibe.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
Chill out. Do your thing. Couple stop and chats. How are you? How's it going? All right. See you later. And then, boom, you're gone. And all right. Well, we'll need a full breakdown tomorrow to see how it goes for you tonight.
Yeah.
And
we'll get into it.
Yeah. There's the flashback. You're going to look to find the glory days. And we got a big one today. We got Brandon Beane coming up, GM of the Bills, in about 20 minutes. So we'll catch up with him. We're getting closer and closer to the NFL season. And the Jays are back in action tonight. Kevin Gosman, the number 2 on the staff on the mound tonight, because, of course, Yusei Kikuchi is the new ace of the Toronto Blue Jays. Yusei, he was throwing heat on the corners last night.
Finally, last year, they used to say he's got stuff.
Yes.
The stuff is there. We didn't really see it last year. Now you're seeing the stuff, and you're seeing it big time, man.
He's been incredibly impressive.
Incredible.
We heard that out of Seattle, that's exactly what it was. He was the stuff guy.
Yeah.
And the first half of his season 2 years ago in Seattle, he showed the stuff, and then I believe it just completely folded. And then he got here, and we know what happened last year. It was a complete debacle, and it looked as if it was an investment that was going to completely sink the Jays. And the Jays tweeted out last night after the game, he's got the best second-half ERA in the American League, which is incredible. And you look at where the team ERA is. They're leading the league in team ERA right now, which is obviously a stat of significance here. We're talking a team ERA of 3.68. That's better than the Mariners, the Guardians, the Padres. I saw a great follow on Twitter, Blue Jays Muse, at Blue Jays Muse. He tweeted out, the last time the Jays had a better team ERA over a season was in 91.
Wow.
That's how far back you have to go. That's with Alek Manoah in Western New York.
Yeah.
He's at Duff's right now, and the Jays have the best team ERA in baseball. And a large part of it is Kikuchi. And I was thinking about that last night, like the comparing and contrasting. Not to, pick on Manoah or goof on Manoah, but I think the story of Manoah has been the prominent story of the season because it has been such a shocking falling from grace and truly unprecedented. You can't even look at Halladay, Ricky Romero. Like, this is a completely different beast because of what he had done before, what he was expected to do this year, and how much it has fallen off to the point where we're talking about a second demotion. He's down in Buffalo. But that has overshadowed the redemption story of Yusei Kikuchi, and I would argue Jose Barrios as well. But, Barrios, prior to getting here in Minnesota and even when he first got here in Toronto, he had great stuff and great numbers. Kikuchi had always been a project. It had always been a lefty with great stuff. And now all of a sudden, this guy every fifth day is going out there and giving them 7 innings of just clean sheet after clean sheet.
Well, and the fall from grace, the fall from grace is always going to be more of the storyline than the glow up, right? Especially Kikuchi. What does he make? $12 million a year when you break it down? It's like when that contract was signed, you were probably I don't know if you were expecting this, but you were expecting a very serviceable starter.
Mm-hmm.
I saw today, in the last 30 days. In the big leagues, in the MLB, he's first in ERA. So that's how good this guy has been. And to think about where he started the year as the 5th guy, and you weren't even excited about him being the 5th guy. It was like, this is going to be your last chance at being the 5th guy in the rotation. And then what is it, back to Buffalo like it was last year? Is it the bullpen? He solved a lot of problems. And now if you're talking about playoffs, which is around the corner, it's like, what's the rotation going to look like? Where does he fit in?
Well, Gosman's getting the ball game 1 like he should. I'm being sarcastic about, Gosman now being number 2 in the rotation.
No,
but statistically, obviously, Kikuchi's been phenomenal. But Gosman gets the ball. I still think Bassett gets it game 2. I think because of the veteran presence, not that Kikuchi's a kid, but he's been relatively consistent all year. His numbers are still pretty good. And I still think they would go Bassett today. I think Kikuchi would get the ball game 3 now, and I think that would be the right move. Yes, I think so. I mean, and you might pitch him game 2, so you go righty, lefty, righty. And Barrios, who has started to control the strike zone more, that was a big issue he had last year, right? He was walking way too many guys he had no control. How you'd utilize Barrios in a 3-game series or Kikuchi. But the same thing with Kikuchi. Let's say he's not a part of it. Let's say it goes Gosman, Bassett, Barrios. The way he is throwing, the fact that he's a lefty, the fact that he has control, command, he's not walking a lot of guys, he can be serviceable out of a bullpen.
Yeah.
Like you could picture a scenario where it goes Gosman game 1 and you hope you get it, maybe 3 times through the rotation. Doesn't happen a lot in the playoffs, but maybe. And then with where this bullpen's at right now, it's phenomenal. Romano, you look at what he did last night. Hicks, when he's got it, is as electric as anyone in baseball. Chad Green had a rehab stint down in Buffalo. He looked very good today. He's coming. You've got Garcia, who's been, pretty good.
Yep.
Swanson's been pretty good. Mays has been phenomenal. Where if you add, let's say it is Kikuchi as a bullpen guy, you could be looking at a situation in a playoff game where, let's say, Barrios gets the ball for the first time through the rotation, Kikuchi gets it for the second time through.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Well, you know the way it is, man. Like, if it gets a little gnarly for you in the 4th inning, you need someone to go long. Like, Kikuchi, it seems like, doesn't take him, like, I don't know much, but I know the baseball guys talk about this. Doesn't take him that long to get stretched out into the bullpen. And the way he kind of delivers the ball, he would be the first option as far as, okay, can he get warmed up quick and can he
right.
give you a few innings out of the bullpen and kind of carry you, when you get into your high leverage situations, then you're going to go with Hicks and Romano and your bullpen guys.
Well, baseball's so premeditated now. Like a lot of the plan is built in before they even get the first pitch. You could picture that scenario where they just tell him to get up. Like it's not even we're preparing for an implosion. It's like this is when you're going in. Like we're expecting we're going to get 3 innings out of this guy, and then you're going in, and you're going to give us 2. So instead of first pitch being 7:07 for you, pretend it's 8:07.
And think about that, the contrast of last year. If Kikuchi was starting a game at 7:07, there were probably guys in the bullpen thinking there's not long until I'm actually being told to get up here and start warming. Yeah, because he's going to bury 3 into the dirt in his first 4 pitches, and then the phone call's coming in.
He's been outstanding.
Yeah.
He really has.
Unreal.
Kikuchi was outstanding. The offense was still, wasn't great last night, but it did enough. Springer with a big hit. Biggio leans into one, takes one off the foot. And
I love that.
Yeah, I love the bases loaded.
Don't move at all. Just be a statue.
Roger Dorn that. You have to Roger Dorn at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Not at the beginning. At the end of the movie, you've got to pull a Roger Dorn. You have to.
And Biggio, he's one of those guys, I think he gets a lot of credit for, smart at-bats and having a good eye, right? And that's just another one that's you see it as athletes all the time where you're like, this guy is known for this, and for some reason, it always seems to happen. And there's Biggio, right? He's got a good eye. Sure enough, he takes one right off the foot, and he's an absolute statue.
We'll take it. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Take your base. We'll take that 2-1. And, Hicks and Romano that's a pretty good battery at the back end of the bullpen, too.
Like to see some offense, though.
Yes, ideally some offense. Vladdy hits into another double play last night. It's crazy what's going on with him. He's just in such a rut.
Yeah.
But, guys are coming. Bichette was playing down in Buffalo today. DH'd. He went 2 for 3, couple of hits, ran the bases well. He went first to home on a play early in the game last night or earlier this afternoon. He's going to play short tomorrow. Jays are off tomorrow. He'll meet them in Cincinnati. It's coming. Bo's coming back, and he'll be okay. So that will hopefully rectify some of the issues.
Yeah.
But, yes, the offense. That's the thing. You look at the team ERA, and overall you look at the team defense. You're like, the makings are there of a very good team. You've got the pitching, finally.
Yeah.
You got a great staff. Top to bottom, there isn't a weakness compared to the rest of the league right now.
And there's two things really that you can look at: the potential for the offense to really break out because they have the pieces there, like you just mentioned. And if I were to ask you who in the AL is the top dog, like undisputed runaway team right now, Baltimore is very good, but I think if you were to put a bunch of those teams, whether it's Texas, Minnesota, Houston, Toronto, do a 3-game series between a lot of those teams and see what happens. It would be up for grabs much more than it would be in the National League right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, you look at the Braves, the Braves look clear cut, and the Dodgers are always going to scare teams.
Yeah.
Right now, to your point, Texas has been good. Baltimore's been very good. and then it's what are we talking here?
Every team has that one factor where you're like, that could be dragging them down. Like I look at Baltimore, it's like they're young, they haven't really been there and done it. It's like Tampa's got guys now, like Wander Franco's not there. Like they got guys like McClanahan's not going to be pitching. So every team has that one thing that could bring them back down. And for the Jays, it's the offense hasn't really found its stride yet, and they got to beat the Phillies 2-1 on a weak little single from Springer and getting hit by a pitch by Biggio.
Right. But still, a win is a win is a win, I guess. And they go for the 2-game sweep tonight with Gausman on the mound. Scott Mitchell from the Park later this afternoon. The O-Dog's on today. Got the O-Dog coming up just after 5 o'clock. Got our best bets looking at the BMW Championship, round 2 of the FedEx Cup playoffs. And Brandon Beane coming up. He will join us next, the GM of the Bills. What did he think of it when he saw Damar Hamlin run out on the field for the first time? What does he make of the progression of Josh Allen? How does he feel about the AFC East and the fact that they start their season Monday night? Monday Night Football, Bills, Jets. It doesn't get much better than that. GM of the Bills, he will join us next. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brandon Beane, GM of the Buffalo Bills, here in a few moments. I remember a time not long ago where the idea of the Bills playing on Monday Night Football, it just wasn't even a possibility. It just never happened, and it wasn't thought of. Or Sunday night, they might play a Thursday game because that was a formality. Every team in the league played on Thursday night, and I think it's a real sign of what they've built there in Buffalo. And I think it started with the quarterback, clearly. It starts with Josh Allen, but Sean McDermott's been a very good coach. Brandon Beane's obviously done a great job as the GM, and the Bills have become a national brand again. Yep. And they're starting the season Monday Night Football in New York against the Jets. And obviously the Rodgers angle factors into that, the Jets factor into that. But Monday night, ESPN, they're like, we'll take the Jets. That's great. But we want the Bills too, man. Like I think that's the game of the week. Week 1 is Bills-Jets Monday night.
Well, and it's also interesting because last year at this time, everyone was talking about the Bills for the Super Bowl. It was all anyone could say. Anyone in the States, anyone here was like, this is the year. Josh Allen this, Josh Allen that, the Bills. And they're still going to be a very good team this year, but I wonder how much, them flying under the radar, I wonder how much they like that this year because it's a lot, man. Like, the Bills are kind of thrust onto that national scene, the big stage. Everyone's talking about you. I'm sure there was a lot of guys that were like, this is somewhat strange for Buffalo to be talked about like this in this scope. And now you come into a year where you're like, maybe people are forgetting about us a little bit, and it's a great opportunity to just kind of fly under the radar and do our thing and pile up some wins here in the regular season.
Yeah, that's a great point about where they were last year. Remember, they started Thursday Night Football in L.A. against the Rams, who had won the Super Bowl the year before. And I can't remember the spread, but it was close. It was like a 3-point game, I think, a 4-point game. And everyone was like, you got to hammer the Bills because it was all Buffalo. Like, I feel like ESPN or a major outlet in the States did one of their expert lists where they asked like 12 people, and every single one had Bills in the Super Bowl.
Right.
If not winning the Super Bowl. Like everyone was
I think I remember seeing that graphic. Someone took a screenshot of that graphic, and it was almost a little outrageous. It was almost like groupthink.
Yeah,
basically.
It was too much.
Yes.
Exactly. Like it's the NFL. It's very difficult to win, to have any consensus on any team, including this year. Like anyone to suggest it's a lock, Kansas City's going to win? It's not a lock. It's a lock the Eagles are going to win. Nothing's a lock in pro sports, and certainly not in the NFL. But you're right. When you compare and contrast that, like the noise around the Bills last year compared to this year, it is a lot more quiet. And I think in large part because of Rodgers in New York, because of the focus probably on Miami and what they accomplished last year as well. So your own division, you had teams get better and improve. And then Belichick, it's like eyes are on Bill and the Pats, and what are they going to be?
Yeah.
What are they possibly going to do this year? And like I'm curious what happens with the Pats. And like I fully expect they finish 4th in the division. I don't think they're a playoff team. But how does that fan base accept that? And are they willing to? And are they going to start complaining?
They had a lot of years of winning. Like all they did was win. All they did was go into the season with the expectations that playoffs were a formality, and it was just going to be how far can we go? Can Tom and Bill bring us another Super Bowl? And They did, man. They experienced plenty of years of winning that a lot of other fan bases are very, very envious of. And now, like, that's the cycle. But they still have Bill Belichick, and people, always say, like, you can never count out Belichick, which is true to a degree. Ultimately, you need to have the talent and the players out on the field to be able to do it, and he needs to manage that accordingly. But the Pats they're always going to be talked about. They're always kind of in that microphone or magnifying lens.
Yes.
And we'll see how it plays out for them, but there's no doubt the division got much stronger with the Jets and the Dolphins.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about it last night, watching the Yankees lose again. And the Yankees are now 60-60 on the season. And that is the first time since 1995 they were 500 or worse through 120 games, which is incredible that is like porous for them, right? They're dead on 500. 60-60, and people are like, this is unacceptable, disgusting, I can't believe it, we haven't done this in almost 30 years. And how difficult it's going to be for Yankee fans to accept that. But on top of it, if they start complaining, how difficult it is for every other fan base in baseball to accept it. And I think the Pats are in a similar spot. Like, no one on earth wants to hear from a Yankee fan complaining that they're only 500 and things aren't going their way. And nobody on earth wants to hear a Patriot fan complain that they might not win the division.
No, not just a Patriots fan.
Nobody wants to hear it.
Any Boston sports fan. No one wants to hear it. Whether it's a Bruins, Celtics, Pats, no one wants to hear about it.
Nobody.
They have been so good for so long in that city.
Yeah, you had your run.
Yeah.
And guess what? The Bruins they're still really good. The Celtics are still going to be great.
Exactly.
The Sox are okay. Sox are on a hunt right now, and who knows with the Patriots? It's not like they're a mess.
No kidding.
But nobody wants to hear it.
No.
You've had 25 years of dominance. Please stop. Like, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
So, we're getting closer here. It is almost go time, and camps are well on their way. And we're joined now by the GM of the Buffalo Bills. Here's Brandon Beane. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing well. How about you guys?
We're doing very well. We're just talking about kind of the noise around your team this year compared to last year, where last year everyone was picking you guys to win the Super Bowl. And it's not that people aren't still doing that, but it does feel like kind of the noise outside of your, spot is kind of quieted down. I'm not sure if you picked up on that, but is that beneficial at all, that maybe that much pressure is not on your team, or does that type of external pressure not really matter to you?
We really don't worry about it a lot, but, like anything, it's there's less reporters nationally rolling through here. So, we're good with that. We're just ultimately, we know that it's what we do on the field, the outside noise, whether you're, when we first got here, we made it in the playoffs, and I think people thought we were tanking. And, it's been our same mantra every year. We control our own fate. And so, last year we were definitely hyped up, and it's not that you run from it or anything, but it does create more media, in the social media world there is, it's hard to hide from it. But no, our guys are focused. I thought we had a good camp in Rochester. We're obviously got through one preseason game, and we still got work to do, but we're looking forward to, to what this team will end up being.
Well, and you guys are going to start your season on Monday Night Football in New York. And again, we were saying there was a time there in Buffalo, probably prior to you getting there, Brandon, where it went a long time without, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. And now, like, you guys are the it team when it comes to, I think that's the go-to game for week one, like Bills-Jets. And I know a lot of Bills fans take a lot of pride in that. A lot of people up here, how many Bills fans are in Toronto. A lot of Bills fans up here love the fact that that spotlight is still on the team and the national games are there. How much pride do you take in that the Bills are a go-to ticket for big national games?
No, it's a good problem to have. I mean, as much as I love Sunday at 1 o'clock so I can get in bed at a normal time, it's not good for job security. You play too many games at 1 o'clock for more than a few seasons, they're going to find, I mean, you're not doing well enough, and they're going to find somebody else to do a better job. So, no, it is some crazy scheduling, the last couple of years, but we embrace it. And, the core of our group is used to that, playing these Thursday, Monday, Sunday nights. We played a Saturday game last year. It's kind of the way of the world now. So no, we embrace it, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to play in front of America to open the season.
Well, and it's no secret that getting off to a good start and getting that win week one is so important for your season. Like, how do you kind of manage right now with camps, making sure like the intensity and the tempo is up, but making sure like guys are making it to week one and not getting in there limping into week one?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could bubble wrap everybody, but it's trying to strike that balance of, we have a sports science group. We just call them sports performance, but they monitor every player, everything they're doing. Once they step on the field, they're wearing the GPS devices and tracking it daily and giving it to the position coaches and the head coach as far as who's kind of in the red, who's green, and guys we got to monitor because you're trying to limit those soft tissue things. And then you do have to have enough hitting. You got to callus up, and if you don't, you at some point you're going to callus up, but you don't want that to be weeks into the season, and you didn't get enough of it in the preseason, and you get struck with what I call the car crash injuries early in the season. So we're trying to strike that balance. Unfortunately, guys do get nicked up here and there, but hopefully we can, get through these next couple of weeks and show up week one as healthy as possible.
With Brandon Beane, GM of the Bills, I was reading about your practice yesterday, and it was being described as heated and intense. With everything you just said, again, you don't want to see injuries, but like you mentioned, you got to callus up. Like, how encouraging can that be about the life form and what is Sean McDermott looking for? I guess what does his ideal practice look like for your head coach?
Yeah, we want it to be super competitive. And listen, we're not promoting fights, but if you never have one, or guys just out there mailing it in. And I know some of the best teams, that I've been around. There were some days, especially the dog days of training camp. We were out of the in Rochester where there's fans and there's kind of that natural energy when you have fans that you feel in a stadium. It's just the guys and the coaches out here working through it, and it's been hot the last couple of days, and I would say we've had back-to-back days of very spirited practices. But again, the guys know when they walk inside, no matter what happens out on the field, when they walk inside, we're all brothers, we're all working together, and it's one common goal. And as long as that's the focus, you're just trying to make each other better. Iron sharpens iron, all those slogans that are out there. And so super competitive is what we want our practices. We feel that's the best way to make our guys sharp.
It's my understanding you guys have shut down joint practices. Is that right, Brandon? You guys aren't practicing with any other teams this offseason, or do you plan on doing that?
We're not this year. It just didn't work for. We looked at potentially back in February, March, which is kind of when you schedule these things before the preseason schedules are finalized, and sometimes you're looking for teams that play a certain style or maybe a coaching staff that you're familiar with, and you do want to make sure when you do those that it doesn't turn into the melees that you so often see. It becomes a waste of time, or you have to cancel day two or whatever. So we couldn't get it worked out. We did it. The last time we did it was 2019, and then 2020 we were going to do it. COVID hit, and so it's kind of knocked it out. This was the first year we thought about doing it again, but this year we're not going to do it. But not something that we're opposed to, and we might look at it again in the future.
From your perspective, what's the outlook on what this division could look like for you guys this year? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets. If Tua's healthy, the Miami Dolphins look like a very strong team. What's kind of the Buffalo Bills' outlook on what the division could look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it starts. And we think this division is as tough and deep as it's been since we came up here in 2017. Obviously, Coach Belichick is still in New England and going down probably as the greatest coach ever. And their team, they got Bill O'Brien now on the offensive side. So putting those two guys back in the same coaching staff is going to make them a lot stronger. They've added some pieces. I know they got Zeke Elliott. I think today was day one for him. And then, yeah, you mentioned earlier the Jets had an MVP candidate, Aaron Rodgers, who he's won it 2 or 3 times. And, he can still – I know he's late 30s, but – the way the rules are and things like that, he's still in great shape and spinning the ball. We played him here last year, and he was playing with a lot of young guys, and he just, he kept him in that game, even though our team was ahead most of it. It was never out of reach with him under center. So that'll be tough. Their defenses gave the league and gave us a lot of fits last year. So they're going to be really good. I know a lot of people are picking them to be in the Super Bowl. So we know we got to have our A game on, starting with that Monday nighter. And then, Miami. Tua's back. They got a lot of speed. They've added more speed. Fortunately for us, we don't have to play down there when it's going to be 130 degrees this year, so I'm excited about that. But they came up here last season in both games, and including the playoff game with the rookie Skylar Thompson, and that game was in the balance well into the second half. So it's going to be a gauntlet. These 6 games in the division, and then the rest of the playing the NFC East and some of those other opponents. There's never any easy games in the NFL, and this year is no different.
But Brandon Beane, the general manager of the Buffalo Bills, the Damar Hamlin situation last year, his story was one of the more preeminent stories of the NFL season, really the sports world for that matter. And he got cleared to return to action, and I'm hoping you can take us through kind of your experience and the emotions that were running through you when you heard the news that he could be activated again, and when you saw him run back out onto the field, the videos went viral of him joining his teammates for the first time. What was that like?
Yeah, just surreal. Make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. It's just it's a cool story, one that you might not even hardly believe if it was in Hollywood that a guy can all but die on the field, be revived, and X number of months later, he's back there, with helmet pads on, tackling guys, this last week in a game. I mean, that was the biggest hurdle of all, because we don't do a lot of taking to the ground in our practices, but, actually having to fly up and meet a running back in the hole, that's the courage that he's shown, throughout this whole process. He's never wavered, and listen, not every day has been easy for him because there's such a mental hurdle knowing what happened to him on that field to step back out there. But much respect for him, and it's been fun to watch him kind of pass each obstacle along the way with flying colors.
I wonder how his teammates on the offensive side of the ball have handled that. Like you just described the situation there, Brandon. Like what? That's got to be difficult, I would think, for some guys waiting for him to tackle them, thinking, okay, how is this going to work for me here? There's a human element to this with Damar. They all know what he went through. I'm curious if there was any messaging towards, the other players on the field, or if you've heard from any of the other players about what that experience been like for them to be out there training with Damar again.
I think they're just more respect and excited he's there. I haven't seen anyone giving him backing off of him or anything like that. Matter of fact, I know the other day Dawson Knox caught a ball and Damar came up there, and I was curious when Dawson kind of turned the corner and got going upfield if he'd lighten up or step out of bounds, and he didn't. Damar didn't back down, and Dawson as he would a year ago or whenever, right, lowered his shoulder and tried to run through him. So no, I think it's just you get into the heat of the moment of the game and you kind of forget that you're just looking at, I got a football player that's about to hit me, I got to brace myself. So, but I think the guys have really enjoyed having him back out there, and he had a pick six one day, and the offense chased him down, but I think after the play, in their own way, we're probably happy for him to see him do that.
As you get into the start of the season here, like if you're looking at one priority area of improvement for your team that you want to see them take the biggest step in, what would that be?
I think just, being better with the ball as far as turnovers, just protecting the ball, red zone, on offense. Probably those are two of the things that, we weren't as good as we wanted to be last season, and we need to be there. And then, just consistency up front, consistency with our O-line, consistency with our D-line. I think, in the playoffs due to various things, injuries, worn out, whatever, neither group played to the level that they know they could get to. And so we just want to be consistent there. We want to get after the quarterback, stop the run, and So from a defensive standpoint, that's probably it. But as I stated, one or two things would be protecting the ball and being more efficient in the red zone.
How much of that protection of the ball is solely on the shoulders of Josh Allen?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the ball's in his hands every play, so it starts with him, and he knows that. But, when you have a guy like Josh that makes as many plays as he does, you can't over try and correct and get on to him, when he throws a pick here or there. It's just being smarter and knowing when I got to throw it away or when to, live to see another down, or when, hey, you know what? Game's on the line, I got to fire it in there, I got to take a chance. So, we love Josh, who he is, and he's his own worst critic. So, when he has a turnover, especially in the red zone, no one is more angry about it than he is, and he always looks to get it corrected. So it does start and end with him, but it starts with our protection. It starts with the guys that I'm putting out there and that we're coaching up to make sure they're ready to protect him or help our run game, which should take some of the pressure off of him as well.
Well, in terms of the coaching situation, Sean McDermott taking over calling defensive plays this year, how much might that change his daily routine, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely added to his plate. I mean, he was in defensive meetings, but when you're coordinating, you're in there a lot more and not breaking out as much. So it's just been more him having to really be all over his time management, help with, he's got a guy in here named Matt Warswick who's his right-hand guy, and Matt's had to assume some duties, even helping with our special teams coach kind of run 2-minute drills or think, because Sean's had to move from the middle of the field over to the defensive side, calling plays out there just so that him and kind of Dorsey can go against each other from a scheme standpoint when things aren't scripted out for practice. So, it's other people having to kind of step up and help. And the same thing on game day, a shared role of managing the clock, especially, as soon as we come off the field, he's going to try to get with his coaches or a player or two. If we need to call a timeout or need to challenge a play, they've been working on the communication end of how that will work now that he would be coordinating the defense.
And I'm assuming Von Miller walking through those doors would probably make his life a lot easier.
Yeah, it's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Those guys are hard to find. So we're looking forward to. Vaughn is getting. He's getting antsy. I know that. He mentioned to me the other day he just wanted to put his uniform back on and get going. And he's just, it's been a long time. He obviously that happened on Thanksgiving Day, and so he's chomping at the bit. He sees the season coming, especially now that we played a game the other day, and so we'll see. Hopefully sooner rather than later we can get him going and see. Kind of where he's at, and we'll work him up to speed. We're going to make sure he's ready to go before we put him out there.
Well, we can't wait to see you guys back in action. It's coming up real soon. Best of luck throughout the rest of camp and up leading towards week 1. We always appreciate you finding time for us. Thank you, Brandon.
You got it. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
You got it. There's Brandon Beane, the GM of the Buffalo Bills. And listen, what they've had in Buffalo for a long time is consistency with Beane, with McDermott, with Allen. Even Stephon Diggs has now been there for a few years.
Yeah.
Like, you get a quarterback, a coach, and a GM that are all on the same page, you're going to have a good program.
Well, and the Von Miller thing gets lost in the shuffle of last year, right? Like that's
yes.
A player that a big part of your team that you didn't have in critical moments, and like they get him back. Like, he's coming back from ACL, so it's always going to be a little wait and see as to what he returns as. But if you give him a full 12 months, there's no reason why he can't get back to reaching his full potential.
Game changer, right? Yeah, and exactly. And if it's week 8, week 10, week 12, whatever, just at 100%.
Yeah,
you're good, because you got Von Miller for the stretch run and the playoffs. That's why you got Von Miller, not necessarily for September and October anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks to Brandon Beane. We appreciate that. The O-Dog's coming up. We got arbitration at 5:30. Scotty Mitchell from the Park ahead of Jays Phillies tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, thanks again to Brandon Beane, GM of the Buffalo Bills. Getting real close to the NFL season, getting close to hockey being in camp. We're into the second half of August now. It's go time, man. We got the FedEx Cup playoffs continuing. Only 50 players going this weekend.
Yeah, everything's we're getting to like the best time of the year soon. We're in that time though where it's so quiet. Like everything's quiet. The NHL, you're not hearing a peep.
Nothing.
No one's doing anything. Even the NFL, like compared to last year at this time, I feel like we had more storylines going. And this year, it is quieter in the NFL.
Well, it's interesting. Like Ezekiel Elliott signs in New England. That's a big name, and that's big news in New England.
Big name, though.
Big name.
Yeah,
exactly. Dalvin Cook has officially signed in New York. That's a big name. Like Cook's been a stud running back for years, and even that, it's like, all right, get into camp, find your way. But you're right. Like the beast is coming alive. Like the NFL and what it represents, it's right there. It's 2.5, 3 weeks away from getting crazy.
And that week 1 game that you're talking about between the Jets and Bills, like you talk about overreaction the next day. Mm-hmm. That's the poster child for overreaction.
Absolutely.
Because with everything that the Jets did, if they lose that game, it's like they're who we thought they were. It's classic Jets, right? But if the Bills lose that game, everyone's talking about like, hey, maybe Josh Allen isn't actually it. Maybe he can't like help himself from throwing picks in the red zone. Like you can already see the storylines that are coming out the next day.
Yep, you're right. Because you know what it'll be with the Bills? They missed their window. Their window closed. They let the Jets catch them. You know, if the Dolphins win also week 1, it'll be the Dolphins caught them, the Jets caught them. They were reigning supreme for a couple years there in between Brady leaving and Rodgers arriving, and now their window's closed. That'll be it, right? Yeah. They lose on Monday night. And conversely, if the Jets lose, and especially lose bad or Rodgers looks bad, it's like same old Jets. Doesn't matter what Rodgers is trying to do. He's over the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, overreaction Tuesday. That's coming.
Can't wait.
Hour 2 coming up. The O-Dog Jeff O'Neill will join us, and we'll play a little arbitration. Haven't played arbitration in a while. We got some good ones at 5:30. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.